Rishi Sunak is in the business of squaring the circle. I don't think he's going to be able to succeed. And what he's done, well, we know what he's done. He's given these licenses to oil in the North Sea, and he also got into an interesting spat with a BBC Scotland journalist interviewer about his use of private jet travel, which he said all prime ministers have done. Well, I don't think Disraeli hopped on a jet. I don't think Mrs. Thatcher did a great deal of that. Helicopters are one thing, jets are an entirely different thing. And when you've got Zoom and when you've got FaceTime, I don't really think we desperately need to have a personal appearance by the Prime Minister to put forward what is effectively a pie crust promise. He's not going to be there to oversee the implementation of what he's suggesting. So what he's done now is to go on LBC and wheel out the same guff that he wheeled out when he was competing with Liz Truss. And with Liz Truss, he came across as Mr. Nice. In fact, he made Liz Truss look extremely extreme, look very right-wing. Well, Liz Truss, I think, is less right-wing than Sunak. Liz Truss is simply ineffective and inappropriate and sort of inept. She with the hand gestures, I believe she had training in hand gestures, her hand job sessions, but which were legendary, I imagine. But Mr. Sunak, I don't think. Well, he doesn't need the hand lessons particularly. I think he does all that perfectly well on his own. But what he does need is some lessons about repetition, because he's drawing on stuff he's already used. It worked well in the past. It's not going to work now. So his line is, well, he wants to leave the place. He wants to leave the country in a better place for his children. And his children aren't particularly interested in politics. They ask him about the environment. So I don't quite understand. Anyway, what does he manage to achieve? Absolutely nothing. It's just another radio session, and I 100% believe that what I'm doing is right, he said. It's sensible to use the energy we have at home. Of course it's sensible to use the energy we have at home. But it's also sensible to set a good example and to ensure that what we are producing is not simply some sort of pipe dream to get him out of trouble and get him into the next election. This U-turn is a U-turn which is redolent of emptiness. He's offering actually nothing. It's just words about the distant future. And in doing so, he's damaging that distant future. And that is the problem. So, car manufacturing, we need to target that. Kemi Badenoch has apparently said that she's not entirely keen on the requirements that car manufacturers must produce a certain amount of electric cars. Why should we have to do that? Well, who cares? They're not going to be in power by the end of next year. But it's the example they're setting that you can say anything you want to persuade the electorate. Anything you want to. Now, the point is, that idea was put into effect first by Boris Johnson. That is what gave us the referendum, saying anything you want to because you're not going to have to take responsibility for it. But we see where that's got us. 6 years down the line, we are in economic, moral, and social hell. Are we going to do the same thing for the environment? I'm afraid we're going in that direction. What we promise, we have to deliver. What we promise, the words we say, have meaning. They're not just simply an expeditious way to deal with the next election. They have meaning. And Mr. Sunak is being a very silly man, using words so casually. and using his daughters so casually.